everybody, I've opened up a new store on Fourth Wall to handle t-shirts from now on. There are some new designs to check out, and on the Store Envy, we've started our Black Friday sale, so take advantage of the deals while they last. Thanks for watching, on with the review. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. We're back to our Patreon-sponsored extravaganza with an interesting bit of history. A superhero universe that predates Marvel and DC's that has been reborn multiple times over the years, including in the modern day. Archie Comics' superheroes. Although, to be more specific, before Archie was Archie, it was MLJ Magazines, named after the first initials of its three founders. Like other Golden Age publishers, superheroes were just one of the things they published, but MLJ apparently has the distinction of the first American patriotism-themed superhero, predating Captain America by a year with Pep Comics' The Shield, whose costume, while not a bad overall design, does sometimes kind of look like he just taped a big piece of paper to the front of a red bodysuit, instead of it looking like part of the fabric. Still, as I mentioned at the beginning of the year, MLJ also got to boast of featuring the very first ever superhero crossover that established a shared universe, The Shield and another hero called the Wizard, and we'll get back to him later. Several heroes were around and published by MLJ for years, even when Archie became the headliner of the entire company, to the point where they renamed it to Archie Comic Publications in 1946. And of course, Archie's popularity as a humor series featuring a bunch of teenagers proved increasingly more effective for the company after World War II. As is the case with the entire industry, superhero books fell out of fashion, and the same was the case with these characters. The Shield, probably their most popular character of the line, disappearing from the books in 1948. But of course, we're not looking at the Golden Age version of these characters, who, as far as I can tell, never had their own Justice Society of America during the 40s. No, instead we jump ahead to the Silver Age. Archie Comics wasn't too interested in joining in on the resurgence of superheroes when revamped versions of The Flash, Green Lantern, etc. started appearing over at DC. They did put out a few relaunches of some of their characters, but it took a few years of various guest appearances by some of the old Golden Age characters to get Archie to finally have its first ever proper team book, The Mighty Crusaders. There's a lot of history going on behind the scenes, a lot of players coming in and out of the books, and some bizarre creative decisions happening. The person who patroned this episode is a huge fan of these characters and had actually sent me the MLJ companion book, which details all this stuff, and it's just a lot more than I can really get into for a non-retrospective episode. The opinion of the companion, though, was that this Mighty Crusaders thing was actually a really bad take on these characters. The decision was apparently made to emulate Marvel's style of bickering characters to try to make them seem more real and human, and instead play it up for high camp, with goofy Silver Age situations contrasted against people who took themselves way too seriously. Basically think the Adam West Batman series before that came to be, but without the charm and talent that made it work so well. So instead of being something ridiculous to laugh at, it wasn't really all that funny, and instead came across as a bad attempt to cash in on Marvel's success. Thus, the book only lasted 7 issues. Attempts have been made to revive the characters over the years, most notably in the 80s, when Archie relaunched the book under the Red Circle imprint. Thus, Archie's heroes have been referred to as the Red Circle characters. DC also apparently licensed the characters in the early 90s, not outright purchasing them like with other imprints, but wanted to use them in a line called Impact Comics, wherein they'd be sold through newsstands to kids who didn't know about the direct market. But apparently that part never went through and the line died thanks to poor sales. A second attempt was made by DC to do stuff with the characters in the late 2000s, actually trying to integrate them into the DC universe proper, but it failed as well. Archie tried one last time to revive them themselves by launching Dark Circle Comics in the mid to late 2010s, but that's been the extent of it. There's a cult following for these characters. I recall seeing some people excited about the DC attempt to integrate the Red Circle characters in the 2000s, but yeah, it just never seemed to work out. Let's dig into the Mighty Crusaders number 1 to 4 and see if their rocky history actually had a rocky start.
Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn.
I'm reading the first issue from a trade that collects the team's first appearances, but I think given that's the only one I have a trade for, we'll look at the covers this time around. And unfortunately, the first cover for this book is not great. Putting aside that they've shoved the title of the book down so they can just have a bit of a chaotic fight scene up top, which is the only shot featuring the whole team, we then have a completely different scene down below that feels cramped and only shows 3 of our heroes. Plus, the big scene for our introduction here is one of the heroes getting shot point blank and letting us know that this book also contains the origin of the shield. After getting shot in the stomach, they realized a shield would be helpful. So the team doesn't really form here, nor is this their first appearance as a team, instead happening over in the book Flyman, originally named The Fly. So we just jump right into them already being a team. We open with the group on a remote field. On a remote field, as self-operating TV cameras telecast to millions of agog viewers all over the earth the formation of the mighty Crusaders, viewers have chosen instead to flip over to a new episode of I Love Lucy. A group of ultra-heroes who have sworn to battle evil and injustice everywhere with their superpowers. Yeah, interesting thing to note, they're rarely referred to as superheroes in this book, instead as ultra-heroes. I thought that it might be because of the whole Marvel and DC owning a shared trademark over the term thing, but that wasn't going to happen for another decade, so who knows. Anyway, their announcement is interrupted by a plane flying overhead and broadcasting a message. We challenge you to a duel, Crusaders! Accept or be branded as cowards! We rented a plane just so we could tell you, bok bok bok! Let's meet our heroes. The Shield, of course, whose origin we'll be seeing later. We've got Flyman and Flygirl, whose origin story is bizarre. Kind of a cross between Green Lantern and Captain Marvel. Basically, he was a kid who discovered a magic ring left behind by fly people who used to rule the Earth. But their civilization was destroyed thanks to crime and greed. So they left this ring behind that whoever was pure of heart could use it and exchange their body with one of the fly people, who were now in another dimension. Also, they were wizards. But you probably already guessed that. He was aged up in later stories to adulthood. Flygirl was an actress that the Fly rescued, but turns out there was a second magic ring, and apparently she was worthy too, so she got the same deal for her. Or maybe the wizard flies just had like a crap ton of these things lying around and are just doing some market research before they shove them in a capsule vending machine. The Black Hood was a relatively popular character back in the Golden Age, even got his own book for a little bit away from the anthologies, but there wasn't much to his story. Apparently trained by a hermit to battle evil because a villain framed him for a crime he didn't commit. And finally, the Comet, a scientist who discovered a gas that allowed him some limited flight. Also, laser eyes later. What's actually pretty interesting about him, though, is that I think he is the first ever superhero to be killed. Yeah, actually died on panel, murdered by mobsters, and his brother was inspired to become another superhero, the Hangman. I do wonder if he's consequently the first superhero to come back to life, too. Because yes, he came back to life, without any explanation as to how, because we get his revised origin in the second issue, to tie him into alien stuff, and they never mentioned that he was killed.
I think it's very nice of you to give that dead woman another chance.
Now, his old costume was just okay, but it was a lot better than this one. A green and orange number topped off with a rainbow helmet. You know, like a comet. Anyway, the Five are offended by the idea that they would be called cowards and order the craft to land and fight them. Emerging from the craft are 5 different-looking beings. We have traveled from afar, comma splice, to destroy you. We've been on this trip for like 8 hours. Can we go to our hotel first and get some dinner? Maybe meet up tomorrow morning to destroy you? I wonder if this was an attempt at ripping off the JLA's origin story from Justice League of America number 9, where a bunch of different elemental aliens tried to compete to take over the Earth. Anyway, this first fellow, Thornaldo, steps forward to take on the Shield. First, I shall demonstrate what you are up against. Each of my potion-tipped steely thorns has a different effect on a victim. I really need to label these things. I've got one dart that makes you really good at speaking to crowds, but only if they're smaller than 20 people, and this one makes you sweat laundry detergent. He demonstrates by shooting at 2 rabbits, one of which rapidly ages while the other transforms into a gas. The Shield is able to evade the thorns for a bit, but then doesn't have to. They're glancing off you. They can't penetrate your amazing uniform. In retrospect, maybe I, the one who fires projectiles, should not have been the one to fight the guy called the Shield. The Shield is worried that they'll remember his face doesn't have that same protection, so extracts a rope from his utility belt that allows him to lasso up Thornaldo. And and toss him into some nearby convenient quicksand. Down into the quicksand bog. So, did anyone think to rope off the quicksand, or were you just gonna hope your big team announcement didn't end with one of you sinking? And so ends the macabre threat of the eerie creature Thornaldo and his Thorns of Terror. Murder is good, actually! America! Next up in the one-on-one is the Black Hood against this Tin Woodsman-looking dude named Bombor. Bombor is apparently a living bomb. I was designed to explode both myself and my target upon contact. Which, now that I think about it, they could have just tossed a grenade instead of creating a living being who has to now contemplate its own brief existence when its only purpose is to explode. Ah well, in for a penny. Bombor shoots out the Black Hood's ray gun and leaps to touch him, but is intercepted by Black Hood's robot horse. Also, Black Hood had a robot horse, just FYI. It explodes on contact. The robot horse sacrificed himself to save his master. I'll never forget him. Among all its other firsts, Mighty Crusaders also has the distinction of featuring the first ever robot horse exploding. Might also be the last time. I'll look into that. Flygirl's opponent is Waxman, who has a pretty freaky-deaky power. I will now focus radiation from the flame-like brilliance atop my form.
Now I'm radioactive! That can't be good!
It transforms her into melting wax, but it's a pretty slow-moving power, so she's able to use her fly wings to create a wind that snuffs out the flame on his head and stops the process. And I guess reverses the damage from the radiation?
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
It also kills him. His life force snuffed out, the creature is collapsing. I cannot begin to tell you how weird it is reading a Silver Age comic where the heroes are just so apathetic about killing the villains. It's hilarious. The Comet kills his opponent, Electroso, even faster than Flygirl did. The Comet somehow has the ability to transform objects, so he just touches a tree and uses it as a lightning rod that draws in Electroso into it and disperses him. And finally we have Flyman versus Forceman, who looks like a gray version of the Amazing Bulk. They take to the sky, Flyman trying to continually shoot at him with various weapons, use wind against him, but he just absorbs it all. He explains that he can absorb any force used against him and then send it back 1,000 times stronger, which everyone thinks will mean that Flyman is a goner, but then Forceman decides to leave. Farewell, Flyman. I see the error of my ways. I shall return whence I came.
I have to go now. My planet needs me.
So how did this happen? Well, Flyman admits it was a long shot. Since Forceman was absorbing everything I tossed at him, I concentrated on imparting to him the greatest force of all, the power for doing good. Absorbing my goodwill thoughts, greatly magnified, reformed him.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
And people say the gun that shoots good vibes from Maximum Carnage is unrealistic. Flyman defeated his enemy with happy thoughts. Everyone in the world who was watching this celebrates the victory, except suddenly the 5 heroes start arguing with one another. After a page of ads, we enter part 2 of the story, where those watching are less confused about the random arguments suddenly breaking out as they are, oh well, I guess they hate each other and there will be no Mighty Crusaders. Too bad. Ah well, that's the fickle nature of the TV audience, I guess. Ratings tank and they'll start doing weird stunts to try to draw back viewers, like adding Fly Child or something. We cut to outer space, where we soon meet the one responsible for the arguing, the titular Brain Emperor. Now, because of my infinite cunning, the planet Earth is ripe for domination by one possessed of my supreme might. But first, I shall seize Goztrark, a rare alloy secretly developed by America's top scientists. It will be useful to me! But that's enough for today's live stream. Make sure to like and subscribe. Let's find somebody to raid into here. We cut over to a factory where the Goztrark is manufactured. Some scientists expositing that it's more powerful than 1 billion H-bombs. Unfortunately, that power is quickly in the hands of the Brain Emperor, who uses a robotic claw from his ship to smash in and grab it. The army personnel guarding it try to shoot the ship down without success. As such, the CIA, who is apparently in charge of this operation instead of the the FBI or the military for some reason, uses a newly developed Visiocaster to contact the mighty Crusaders. It's like a video phone, but it projects an image of the CIA agent to them. Anyway, he tells them about how the Gaustrarch was taken, but the Brain Emperor interrupts the call. "It was I, the Brain Emperor, who seized the Gaustrarch. It was the command power of my hyperbrain that forced you to fall out amongst yourselves. I'm so powerful and intelligent, which is why I'm telling you my exact plan and who I am. I'm so smart!" But as it happens, they are under his mind control, so they all kneel and proclaim how they obey. "And now that you will be compelled to enforce my conquest of Earth, I shall reveal my origin. I've been sitting in that spaceship for months with nobody to talk to. I'm gonna tell my backstory to somebody, damn it." He comes from the planet K-Shazor, where everybody was surgically augmented to have giant brains and hyperintelligence. He was a mutant, though, so when the procedure was done on him, he got the power of mind control and seized control of the planet. For some reason, a solar eclipse disabled the mind control, and the populace rebelled. "Free at last! We will remain so by imprisoning the despot within a Cosmo Cube.
The Cosmo Cube can do anything!
They warn him that there's a booby trap inside of the Cosmo Cube that will automatically destroy him if he escapes, and uses his mind control on them again. As such, he decided to go conquer Earth instead, enlisting the help of the 5 ultra-villains for the job when he learned of the mighty Crusaders' existence. Now he intends to use the superpowers of the heroes to help him conquer Earth. Fortunately, this was all broadcast to the world, so everyone knows they're being mind-controlled and there won't be any awkward conversations later about them helping him. The American military is dispatched to try to attack them, but the heroes' powers are able to knock them out. Not kill them, mind you. The mighty Crusaders only do that when they're not mind-controlled. With the military repelled, the Brain Emperor uses a device from his ship to blast a nearby meteor to demonstrate his own power, proceeding to order the world to surrender or be destroyed. "Our world is now owned by a heartless oppressor."
Geez, now we're slaves. This boss sucks.
As people start talking about forming resistance groups, the Brain Emperor launches a satellite into orbit that encourages people to hate and fight each other. "Earthlings will be so busy hating and opposing each other, they'll never unite to defeat. Ha ha! Me! Ah, I see they're all fighting so much now. The satellite works!" Sir, I haven't turned it on yet. He orders the heroes to compliment him, which is really just everyone saying how icky and evil he is, but then the comet pulls the Brain Emperor aside, saying that he should be made the right-hand man, stating that the other heroes have genuine superpowers that might allow them to break free of his mental control. If he's made second in command, he can build a brainwashing machine to take away their minds permanently. The Brain Emperor agrees, though thinks that he'll have to kill the comet later. Anyone ready to betray his friends would betray him, too. Except I thought you were mind-controlling him, so... What? He constructs the device and uses it, but in reality the comet was tricking him, the device actually combining their mental energy to resist the Brain Emperor and mentally subdue him. Comet orders him to return to his own planet and submit himself to the authorities, which he's compelled to do. See, this is the problem with allowing your heroes to be okay with killing, because it just makes me wonder why you didn't just shoot his huge brain or toss him in the quicksand then if you're willing to kill anyway. The comet explains that the Brain Emperor kinda defeated himself. The satellite he put in orbit to get people to hate each other had a unique energy that interacted with his rainbow helmet, freeing him from the mind control. And thus the world is saved and the mighty Crusaders are finally allowed to properly unite, pledging to use their powers to battle evil and help the downtrodden. Because we're this far in and only now finishing up the first story of the mighty Crusaders, and we've got 3 more to cover, we'll just skim through the other stuff in the issue. The first is a 1-page quasi-origin, I guess, of the team meeting for the first time. I don't know if this is a reprint from The Flyman, since the ad at the top says to meet them all in that book, but it comes down to, oh no, Fly Girl can only fly for 1 hour every 24 hours, and all the superheroes arrive to try to catch this damsel, and now they all want to hit on her, except for the Shield, who is already in a committed relationship with America. Okay, an exaggeration there. She says she has a date with him, but he has to call it off because of a supervillain attack, but you get the gist of it. But yeah, the Shield's origin. The thing about the Shield is that he's actually a legacy character. There had been a second guy to call himself the Shield with a different costume who had shown up before, but in this origin we learned that the original Golden Age Shield was confronted by a hired assassin called the Eraser. And naturally with that name, he, turns him into metal. How are you this bad at your code name? You made him the exact opposite of erased. He's permanently there now.
My calling card, a rubber eraser. Dramatic testimony you have been proudly rubbed out by that maestro of skullduggery. The one and only, incomparable, the Eraser!
You just looted an old elementary school supply closet and chose that as a code name, didn't you? A new shield suddenly appears and starts fighting the gangsters who hired the Eraser.
Just spread the word around that there's a plot to steal the Statue of Liberty.
Say it's being done by someone named Pigeon Person. As long as they don't have Hostess cupcakes, it'll be foolproof. At the statue, the shield sends the Eraser into some device that would have transported him across space, because that's a thing he has, which is also not erasing, where it's revealed that the shield in the Mighty Crusaders is, in fact, the son of the original, having sworn not only to avenge his father, but to find some way to restore him to life. Let's continue to issue 2 with a much better cover. Nothing too special, but the Mighty Crusaders confronting some bald, wizard-looking dude riding atop a giant corkscrew rocket.
Sure, it's phallic. Why wouldn't it be?
The Crusaders are doing some training by sparring against each other. Haha! If folks were to see us now, Black Hood, they might somehow get the idea that when the Mighty Crusaders aren't fighting foes, we clobber each other. Yeah, just imagine us fighting with each other. It's a good thing that didn't just happen last issue. Comet says that the group needs to stand on the Star-O-Lator, some sort of star-shaped object on the ground. Now, the way this gizmo works is, we all concentrate powerfully, and it will monitor any terrific emergency requiring our Ultra services.
This makes no sense, and yet it's working.
Buzzing bumblebees! Bees, my god. A spinning globe has materialized in response. The Harlem Globetrotters will destroy us all! They witness a giant drill flying through space and destroying a planet, but now it's on its way to Earth. Since these guys seem to operate out in the middle of a field with no actual headquarters, that means they have no jet to get them around. As such, the Comet has a way for them to travel. Bombardment from the flight ray will permeate every atom of your costumes, Shield and Black Hood. Temporarily, you will be able to fly by merely willing it.
No, I don't buy it for 1 minute.
As the world learns of this approaching space drill, our heroes fly over a city to some other part of the desert. In any case, it conceals the Comet's hidden laboratory. But they're not going inside. Yeah, sorry, we do not have the budget to show a whole lab set. Rather, the Comet is summoning up a bunch of parts for them to assemble a massive energy cannon. However, it's not meant to blow it up. Instead, it's a reverse gravity ray cannon, intended to just turn the thing around and away from Earth. While it does push it away, it just turns right around and flies back towards Earth again. Do they think space is just filled with naturally occurring space drills? Why wouldn't they realize someone is piloting this thing towards them? Also, a giant bug in space. Because why not? A space insect just informed me telepathically that the space drill is returning, Comet. Put that one in the sentences I never thought I'd say when I started this job list. Oh, but it gets better. Not content with telepathic space bugs or giant space drills, a tornado forms nearby and starts damaging the ray cannon, and it soon reveals itself to be a tornado demon. This is just a thing that exists here.
This is indeed a disturbing universe.
The Comet tries to fly up to intercept the drill, only for an eagle to fly in out of nowhere and rip the hat right off of him. When the shield flies up to try to catch the Comet before he falls to his death, an oil gusher busts loose and sprays him in the face so he can't reach him.
What the hell is going on?
The flies catch the two and bring them to the ground, the Black Hood reaching for his ray gun to try to stop the drill. But then a lightning cloud comes out of nowhere and strikes it out of his hand. And yeah, he recognizes that something weird is going on with all this just as the drill reaches the ground. And it seems our bald space wizard has decided to make his appearance finally, teleporting in as a giant form and declaring himself to be Inferno the Destroyer, who uses his powers to crush the drill completely. From the evil look of him, Earth's troubles are far from over. Let's get him! Attack, Crusaders! We are very judgy and prejudiced towards people's appearances! Attack! That brings us to part 2 of the tale. Inferno has telepathy, which he uses to contact the entire planet.
Who I am and where I am from is my own deep, dark secret. No one can know that I am secretly M. Emmett Walsh, back from the grave.
He admits that he was about to conquer the Earth with his own secret army of followers, but then decided to protect Earth from the space drill. While the Crusaders attack him, indeed his secret army of purple soldiers soon begins storming the streets of major cities. Inferno doesn't resist the heroes, and despite the fact that they were just out in the desert, they've apparently flown back closer to the city. Also, Comet got his helmet back at some point. In the city, people say that the heroes should let him go. If we let this magical screwball loose, folks, he'll dominate Earth.
And why shouldn't he? If not for him, Earth would have been wiped out.
There is logic in what he says.
Yeah, despite him admitting that he was planning to invade the Earth and take it over with his army that even now is flooding the streets of cities, people are just like, yeah, let this guy rule over us. This explains a lot about politics, really. You know, Anton York, our true 45th president, would be ashamed of you all. Inferno demands to be taken to the highest tribunal to face judgment, and whoever the hell this guy is, wherever the hell they are, is like, yeah, this guy saved us, so we have no right to condemn or oppose his plans for world domination.
Now you see that evil will always triumph, because good is dumb.
Yeah, he declares himself ruler of the Earth, saying that while they'll lose freedom, he'll protect them from threats like the space drill. The Crusaders meet up, pondering if they should disband if people really reject their aid, but Comet says they should stick together. Fly Girl, however, just quits on the spot and heads over to Inferno, wanting to join his side. He says he'll only let her join if she can prove her loyalty by helping capture her comrades.
You saved the world. The mighty Crusaders couldn't. You've earned the right to destroy all who would oppose you, including them.
Okay, but like the mighty Crusaders saved the world in the first issue too. How come nobody was saying, well, I guess they're okay to take over the world? Or wait, is that how they got away with killing all those aliens? Fly Girl tricks the Crusaders to joining her for dinner, the other team members wanting her to rejoin them, but the food is drugged and they're all knocked out so Inferno can take them away. This right here is probably the most Adam West Batman-esque thing we've had so far, as instead of just killing them, Inferno elects to attach the four Crusaders to a giant spinning fan. When it gets fast enough, they'll detach and fling each hero to their doom. The fan suddenly stops and their bonds are retracted, much to Inferno's shock. He quickly realizes Fly Girl is behind this, but unfortunately for him, his control panel is equipped with robotic claws that grab the villain and prevent him from escaping. He then all of a sudden becomes meek and nice, I guess? And the claw releases him. Fly Girl uses an antidote gas to wake up the others, explaining that she realized how bizarre it was that all their efforts to disable the space drill were thwarted and figured Inferno was behind it, so she quit to find out the truth. She discovered his hidden lab, where she has, get this, the Fate Mastery Machine. I see. This incredible mechanism can cause effects that are contrary to science and can bend fate. That's right, of course. Egg on my face, guys. How did we not see that one coming? A machine that alters science and fate to summon tornado demons and helmet-stealing eagles. Diddly durhay. Obvious in hindsight. She figured out how to use it to make Inferno harmless, encouraging him to reveal the origin of the space drill. He confesses that he secretly built and launched the drill, admitting to everything, and of course Fly Girl uses a nearby camera to transmit this info to the world.
That scheming character! We shouldn't have turned against the mighty Crusaders.
I don't know, guys. Sure, he caused the space drill, but he did still save us from it. I think we still owe him our blind obedience and loyalty. The Crusaders and the army make short work of Inferno's troops, and the villain is handed off to the authorities. The people of the world, sorry they were such morons. The second story in the issue explains how the Comet in this book is the same as the original, despite their costumes and powers being different. Long story short, he was kidnapped by an alien queen to help save her people from an army of robots. He succeeded, the queen and him falling in love, but one of the robots survives and kills the queen when his powers fail him, the atmosphere of the new planet taking them away. He switched costumes so he wouldn't be reminded of his failure to save his beloved, the new suit granting him technological powers after returning to Earth. We fight for the Brotherhood of Man! They're an underrated pop group that demands more respect, damn it! Issue 3's cover is also okay, featuring our heroes taking on this, honestly, just looks like Inferno again, but if he was somehow mixed with Michael Morbius. Evil lurks amongst us. Yeah, but I don't think the imposter is doing a good job of hiding here. And it seems my Among Us joke was accurate, because we open with the mighty Crusaders confronting evil duplicates of themselves.
The mighty Crusaders shall now be vanquished by the evil Crusaders! We are legally distinct from you, even if our costumes are pretty much the same. Ha ha ha! Unlike the good Flyman, I am using my insect powers against people, instead of to protect them! Such as these cyclonic winds created by my flapping wings!
Oh my god, this is just a solid JJ video made in a comic form. Yeah, so like, when you're doing an evil version of your characters, maybe you should have something a little more distinct and unique about their costumes other than their masks being pointy. Seriously, it took me a minute of looking at these fight scenes and figuring out who was who, when that is the only thing about them that's different. But yeah, each of our heroes takes on their evil counterpart, with evil Fly Girl taking a moment to apply fresh makeup.
The conceited thing is taking time out to pretty itself. We're allowed to do that? We're allowed to pause a fight to fix a smudge in my lipstick? I've been looking like an idiot in half these fights!
But yeah, there's not much to comment on in this fight. It's a lot of back and forth, the heroes helping their companions when they can, or accidentally knocking them out, as with what happens between the Black Hood and the Shield. Whoops. Eventually, some kind of cloud creature with a single eye appears and starts talking to the evil Crusaders.
Battle more fiercely, evil duplicates! I created you out of my own dupla substance! I've got to admit, I think I needed that kidney more than I thought I did.
But yeah, this cloud creature wants the mighty Crusaders destroyed so it can prey upon the inhabitants of Earth. The shield recovers and rallies our heroes as the cloud creature reabsorbs the evil Crusaders back into itself. It then suddenly transmutes its body into, of all things, a rocket ship. The rocket ship is blasting off! Probably it can make a quicker getaway in that mechanized disguise.
Well, consider yourself conquered. I gotta go.
From here, we get to peek in on the civilian lives of our heroes. While the Shield is happy to field autographs when he has to become his secret identity, Bill Higgins, he has trouble finding steady employment, especially since he's a superhero and needs to sneak off and go save the planet. Fly Girl is actually actress Kim Brand and has to do tougher acting when threatened by fictional gangsters because in reality, she can kick all their asses. The Black Hood is Kip Berland, a patrolman who bonks himself in the face with his own nightstick when he sees a hot lady. Yeah, it's so hard to be a superhero. One person can't get money, another is a horny idiot. Life is just rough, isn't it? Flyman is attorney Thomas Troy, and he just lost a case.
Some lawyer you are!
The Comet doesn't really have a civilian life anymore, it seems. Instead, he just laments the loss of his alien queen girlfriend. But again, all this is kind of a contrast to how the Shield has to hitchhike to get to the mighty Crusaders meeting. At the meeting, the five stand on the Star-Elator to look for emergency signals, but nothing pops up.
Nothing is wrong with the device, teammaters. There can only be one explanation. One of us is an imposter!
That brings us to part 2. Fly Girl and Flyman test each other's memories, but both pass. The Shield, though, points out that any clever imposter would have studied up on all this. Black Hood tries to ask him a question about a teleporting ability the Shield had recently, but he refuses to answer. And a fight breaks out. Feels like them sparring at the beginning of issue 2 was more accurate practice considering each of these issues has featured them opposing one another. Comet suggests that maybe there's some other reason the Star-Elator failed, even though he was the one who said it could be an imposter. As they continue to accuse each other, a supervillain decides to fly around the city, calling himself the Deathless Smiler. My god, because people only smile when they're dead! Wait. He finds a diamond dealer who's carrying a bunch of them around in a suitcase and attacks to steal them. His big surfboard or whatever also serves as a defensive shield for himself, which he uses to block off being shot at. I warned you of the folly of useless resistance. I shall now retaliate smilingly!
Are you crazy? Is that your problem?
He manages to take the diamonds, but when he prepares to fly off, the guy is able to shoot him in the back. However, we now learn why he's called the Deathless Smiler. He can't be killed, at least not by bullets. Cops arrive and try to stop him, but he just flies off, apparently making his exhaust fumes form into a smoke cloud shaped like his face. Weird. The CIA contacts the Crusaders, projecting an image of their agent into the sky. A crook who can't be killed, the Deathless Smiler, is running amok on an amazing shield craft.
Get him, Ultra Heroes! Also, you must avenge me, Simba.
They put aside the imposter debate so they can go to confront this guy. S.H.I.E.L.D. and Black Hood not being able to fly, much to the S.H.I.E.L.D.'s irritation, until a jet appears with a pre-recorded message from the Comet, explaining he made this craft for them to use.
Hoo-wee! This must be the fastest jet on Earth! But not as fast as our Crusader buddies. They'll probably capture the Deathless Smiler long before we can reach the unholy lout.
The S.H.I.E.L.D., the Deathless Whiner. However, the Smiler intercepts the two of them first, the being managing to blast the wings off their jet. They're able to shoot down the Smiler's shield craft, and the rest of our heroes save them before they crash.
Nice going, chumps! No sooner do I give you the world's greatest jet craft than you wreck it!
God, if only my equipment had the ability to temporarily grant you the power of flight like in the second issue or something! S.H.I.E.L.D. tries to boast that the Smiler is dead, but they soon spot him entering a cave.
This is crazy! Nuts! Screwball! How can we defeat a villain who can't die no matter what you do to him? Killing is the only way of stopping things! I must quench my thirst for blood!
Ow! I stubbed my toe! Good to know? They arrive at some large machine projecting light into the ceiling of the cave, the Smiler at the controls. Comet asks sarcastically what he's gonna do, blow up the Earth? However, the Smiler says, yeah, that's exactly it.
When I pull the switch down, the planet will explode! Everyone will die, except undying me. My appetite whetted by this triumph, I shall rip across the cosmos, doing likewise to thousands of inhabited worlds! And that's why I stole some diamonds?
Comet wants to shoot everything around the machine, but Fly Girl steps in the way. She uses her size-changing powers to grow and reveals that the imposter was, in fact, the Black Hood, and the real one is being hidden here. Taking off his mask, the imposter is revealed to be the Hangman! You know, the Comet's brother? Yeah, something I neglected to mention when I talked about him and didn't bring up when they were trying to suss out the imposter. In the pages of Flyman, the Hangman and the Wizard actually became supervillains. Now, I haven't seen the Flyman issue with a reveal of them now acting as villains, but it feels like the heroes, especially the Comet, should have more of a reaction to seeing these two, given they used to be friends. And in the case of the Comet, his friggin' brother! Which is also kind of baffling when you consider the Hangman only became the Hangman because his brother was murdered. Except they seem to have retconned his murder away. How is a Silver Age book's continuity as confusing as a modern DC book? But yeah, the Deathless Smiler was actually just an astral projection by the Wizard, hence his invulnerability. After some back and forth, the villains are defeated and teleport away. Fly Girl explains that she realized Black Hood was the fake because the real one was using his hands to form a silhouetted shadow puppet of his late robot horse in the lights, a signal to her that he was captured behind there. Black Hood gives her a kiss on the cheek, the S.H.I.E.L.D. thinking to himself that he's actually feeling jealous about this, because we needed one more moment of dickishness, even if it was private. And we move on to the other story in this, the origin of Flyman. We went over it already, but this story explains away his size-changing powers as well as his weakness of only being able to be Flyman for an hour every 24 hours. Enough of that though, let's move on to our final issue. Its cover is pretty good, a massive brawl between... Hey, is that the Dan Garrett Blue Beetle? Oh great, one of the other powers of Dan Garrett was teleporting into other comic universes. No, that's actually another MLJ hero called Fireball. And as the title of the issue states, you can kind of tell what's up with the brawl. Too many superheroes! What people claim about the Marvel Cinematic Universe nowadays. I think it's fine, still more hits than misses. We open with this dude, the Mighty Minstrel. Yeah, don't know if he appeared before this, not super important. Acting as the narrator, saying that in reaction to fan demand, they're bringing back a bunch of other old MLJ characters for this book. Our actual tale features the mighty Crusaders checking out the image projected by the Star-O-Lator. When we concentrate, the globe that's formed is supposed to pictorially alert us to great emergencies. But it's only picturing the five of us looking terribly aggravated. Why? Ah, they all just read Marvel. Still, we get another peek into the civilian lives of our heroes before they need to rush off for a Crusaders meeting. Especially poor Higgins, who gets fired from another job. You know, maybe if their regular meeting time keeps screwing up all their lives, they should, bring up scheduling it for later. John Dickering, aka the Comet, apparently does have a secret identity, working as a scientist in a lab. A woman says she can't resist anymore and wants him to kiss her, But when he remembers the meeting, he runs off and tells her to find someone good enough for her. And here I've been trying to get someplace with that chick for months. I finally got over my hot alien queen wife whose picture I stared at during all of my off time, and apparently I have been wooing this chick for a while. Damn! Back to that little vision from the emergency system, the comet says some aggravation is waiting for them in the future. If you quit the Crusaders and went back to being a loner, Black Hood, that wouldn't aggravate me at all. You'll get a crack on the jaw for that, crack shield. Why do these people even want to be a team when they're fighting each other just as much as the villains? I feel like the Brain Emperor didn't actually have to do much to get these guys to start fighting. When they start throwing punches at each other, the flies use their powers to separate the two, with the Black Hood soon being offered a hand by the Fireball to get back up. I've come out of retirement because I think the Mighty Crusaders is the hottest thing since the invention of the pizza pie. I want to join. I want to join a superhero team because of popularity, dang it! And for some reason, nobody takes my Labubu collection seriously. That might be great at that. What do you mean, might?
You and your stupid thoughtfulness can go to hell.
Well, what do you know? At last, someone who's even more hot-tempered than me. Ready to fly off the handle and come to blows with a fellow crime fighter? He fits right into this team! Fireball recounts a time when he used his fire powers to take down some goons and consequently proves he's the real deal with his powers. The Fly thinks that maybe he might be a good fit for them, but some new arrivals say they deserve a chance to get in as well. Two more MLJ heroes, Inferno and Firefly. Two Brand X pale imitations of me. I'll comb them out of your hair, Crusaders. More people wanting to do good by joining? I'll prove what a hero I am by driving them off. Inferno also has fire-based powers, while Firefly can shine so brightly so as to blind enemies. After they squabble for a bit, the Fly suggests the three take the Crusader craft, probably a new vehicle to replace the downed one from last issue, and says that the three can prove their worth in joining by doing good deeds while the Crusaders monitor them. We cut over to the home of John Raymond, aka the former superhero The Web. Disgusting. To think that I, who was once the famed Web, have sunk so low that instead of cleaning up on malefactors, I'm wiping dishes. How dare I do a menial but necessary task when I could be inflicting violence? While my wife, Rosie, bless her heart, is weeping tears over a stupid soap opera. Rosie says I'm now too old for crime fighting. Nuts! Doing housework because my age might inhibit my ability to apprehend criminals, and the woman that I love and married gets to enjoy a show that's only on at a certain time before home video recordings, DVRs, or even reruns exist? I'm an awaking nightmare! He goes out for a walk, Rosie reminding him about some other household tasks he had promised to do, and he decides to duck into some bushes and change into a superhero duds. To just walk around in them in the suburbs, I guess. But fortunately, he's soon met by some other heroes, who invite him to come along with them, led by the hero known as the Fox. Some of us fellows got together. We decided that, great though it is, the Mighty Crusaders needs us. You remember Blackjack and Bob Phantom, don't you? Do I? Wow. Well, it's nice that somebody does. And yes, that character was seriously named Bob Phantom. It's like if DC had named Bruce Wayne's alter ego to be Steve Batman. Just why? They too arrive at the open field where the Crusaders hang out. I guess everyone just knows where their meeting place is? The Fox, the Web, Blackjack, Bob Phantom, Ultra heroes all! Especially you, Fred Spector. Of course, they're here to try out for the team, which involves getting into a fight with them. The Fox is able to evade the shield, in turn punching Blackjack instead. However, this just results in the four heroes who came here battling one another. The Fox fails to punch old Bobo. You're disappearing! A typical Bob Phantom maneuver. Oh yeah, that is so Gary Apparition. Meanwhile, the three who had been sent off discover a heist of a company's payroll being done by a villain called the Dragon, leading us to part 2 of this tale. The Dragon flies around in his own little plane that can shoot fire at the three, but since 2 of them absorb fire, there isn't an issue. Firefly leaps over to the Dragon's plane to blind him at point-blank range, and we discover that the Dragon is just wearing a massive dragon mask, and that he's, in reality, the Hangman again. Dude just does not care for his own regular identity and wants to keep trying new branding. The Hangman manages to fly away, Fireball figuring that even if they couldn't catch the guy, they put on a good performance for the Crusaders. But once they return, we discover that they were too busy watching the brawl between the Fox, the Web, Blackjack, and Joe Revenant to see their own efforts. Before they can argue about that, though, robotic bombs start dropping on the heroes. The bombs proclaiming that the hangman had the wizard summon them to destroy them all. The heroes destroy as many as they can, but there are too many. It's only thanks to the arrival of two magician heroes that they're saved. Zambini the Miracle Man and Kardak the Mystic Magician. Like everyone else, they're here to join the team, but begin arguing over who is the strongest magic user. Gentlemen, this is a Crusaders meeting, remember? Let's preserve our dignity. I mean, you're embarrassing us all in front of Roy Eidolon over there. Kardak senses a great evil and projects an image of it for the group to see. Parade balloons that burst, revealing dozens of troops working for the wizard and the hangman. Before the Crusaders can go deal with them, they spot some more MLJ heroes doing it first. Steel Sterling, and then the ghostly hero, Mr. Justice. After rounding up the goons, they too declare that they want to join the Crusaders. Our heroes are a little overwhelmed by how many want to join their ranks, thinking they should take this slowly, but more are still coming. Another patriotic hero, Captain Flag, and Zambini decides to open up a time portal that allows him to temporarily grab the Shield's old sidekick, Dusty, and bring him to the present day. He does this because shut up. The Shield is nervous about this, since Dusty was his father's sidekick, not his, and doesn't want to tell the kid the original Shield's fate. But let's proceed to the final part of Too Many Superheroes, where the Hangman is stealing some military secrets to sell to an enemy of America. Captain Flag came to bring the Shield in on this, having somehow learned about it. So he and his pet eagle, Yank, work with Shield and Dusty to kick his ass. Hangman does manage to escape again, but fortunately Yank was able to, well, yank the files away. So he left empty-handed. No idea why Captain Flag needed only the Shield for this, but whatever. They return to the Crusaders, Dusty saying that he can tell that he's not the original Shield and wants to know what happened to him, but Zambini just sends him back to his own time. The Hangman and Wizard spot all the heroes meeting via magic mirror and decide to attack them, and they're not the only villains. Another one, the Spider, goes to confront the Crusaders, but immediately turns around when he realizes how many of them there are. Smartest man in this series, honestly. His plane still crashes because funny, but hey, less pain than if he had tried to take them all on. The other two villains arrive and actually do a decent number on the heroes despite being outnumbered. Even another MLJ hero joins the fray, the Jaguar. And now this is such a major thing that's happening that the story moves into a part 4. After some more battling, the wizard summons up some kind of giant claw that attracts the heroes to it like a magnet and starts sapping their power and strength. The only remaining option is Zambini and Kardak combining their powers together to once again summon some heroes from the past. Specifically, Roy the Mighty Boy, who was the wizard's old sidekick, and the younger, heroic version of the wizard himself. The Golden Age wizard uses his abilities to strip the villains of their powers, freeing our heroes. The time-traveling heroes are sent back to their own time. I regret the harm my present-day self inflicted. Guess I'm just destined to be evil, not gonna try to defy fate or anything. Sucks to be me, I guess. However, despite all that, the other heroes once again just start arguing over who gets to actually join the damn team, brawling with each other until the Crusaders finally just tell them all to go away because there are too many of them. But they'll consider adding members in the future. Future? Phooey! Maybe we'll form our own new superhero teams now, with Blackjack and hookers! Yeah, sure, I'll join your superhero team. Oh, good to hear, Blackjack. Now we just need to find that fishing-themed superhero, Hookers. And so our comic ends with the Mighty Minstrel telling the audience that if they want to see more of these heroes in the future, maybe give them their own superhero teams, to write in and tell them. And I guess this whole thing wasn't a total wash, since the Wizard and the Hangman were captured, but I do wonder what was really accomplished by all this otherwise.
We hope you've enjoyed No Moral Theater, ladies and gentlemen.
These comics are weird and incredibly goofy, which admittedly, kind of par for the course when it comes to the Silver Age. This really was just meant to be a parody of superhero books, and it kind of missed the mark by being pretty indistinguishable from the thing they were satirizing. It combined the absolute silliest parts of DC while including some 60s Marvel-style melodrama into the latter two issues concerning their personal lives. Obviously, their civilian lives are not given a ton of focus, but the fact that in many cases they highlight how rough it is to try to maintain a life outside of superheroics seems to be less a matter of, haha, superheroes are silly, and more, wow, superheroing kind of sucks because it means you sacrifice your personal life. Just odd if this really was meant to be a big goof rather than a legit attempt at making a team book. Now, I've been pretty harsh on parts of this, but honestly, it's not too bad, but when compared with similar books from the same time, absolutely ludicrous situations were happening all the time. Aliens visiting and attacking Earth every week, and the solutions are equally as laugh-inducing, but for its time, yeah, this was pretty average. No, my big issue is really the fact that while individually these characters seem pretty good, Flyman and Flygirl coming across as the most well-adjusted, hey, Flygirl even manages to save the day once or twice. That's pretty progressive for this era. But the constant arguing and infighting got old real fast, not helped by reintroducing a bunch of Golden Age characters for the 4th issue, and the whole joke is, ha, everyone's fighting each other now! The Shield especially just devolves into complete jerk-ass behavior over the course of these 4 issues. I actually really thought they were gonna reveal that he was the imposter because of how belligerent he was in issue 3, but nope. He just suddenly decided to be the annoying hothead of the team. It also just feels like some weird creative choices were made to justify some of the sillier decisions here. Like the fact that the Crusaders just operate in a big empty space in the desert or the plains or wherever the hell they are. Does it ever rain out there? Snow? Clearly the Comet is loaded, given how much equipment he has underground and secreted away, but not enough to buy a building for them to work out of? Honestly though, the characters themselves aren't too bad. If this had been a popular enough book to continue on like Marvel and DC had, I could see the team changing a lot and developing into the modern day with some proper character development, new members, all that. As it stands though, this is just a ridiculous series of superhero tales that, yeah, I see why these characters have some cult appeal. As I said, the patron who requested this is a huge fan of the characters. Not sure if they're a fan of this run specifically, but still. And we may end up seeing them again at some point in the future here. Next time, we actually check in on another team, as the Patreon-sponsored extravaganza brings us over to the Immortal X-Men.
I do hope I don't ever revert to crime, Flygirl. It would be most regrettable.
What's the world coming to when arch-villains spout dialogue like that? How can we justify murdering them if they're repentant, damn it? Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the Store Envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from 4th Wall. Thanks for watching.